Off Limits is the money podcast that blows up stereotypes, showing you that managing money doesn't have to be hard.
We want you to thrive, not only with your money, but in every part of your life.
What you will get out of this podcast is real, relatable, and relevant tips and strategies that you can apply today. Hi, I'm Donald Raymond, and this is
Christine Spiak. We are money coaches, business owners, and colleagues who are passionate about helping you become more of who you are. So if you're ready, join us.
Put them together, but the where is it's a much shorter category, but I think it's going to speak into the how a little bit. So where, if we unpack this, Christine, and we think about the example that's used a lot of times for like team building exercises and like icebreakers, right? We're going to pretend that nobody at the table knows how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and somebody is going to try to walk them through how to make this peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You've ever heard this? I
have not.
Okay,
but keep going.
Yeah, so this is like an icebreaker thing, like I said, and the task is, Christine, if you've never made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before, pretend you don't know what bread is, you don't know what jelly, you don't know what a knife is, and I say go get the bread. You don't know what's bread.
What's bread?
Where is it? What does it look like? Right? Yeah. So there's all these like little details, right? So if we're talking about budgeting and we're talking to somebody that just, up to this point, they've been, hey, I'm with you. I get it. I accept the need to do it. I accept the premise that I can do it no matter what my income is. What do I do first? Right? And I think as I'm kind of reviewing our notes in our preparation for this, the where is going to help into the how as to how to really get started, right? And so the first item we have in the where for this budget really is also a how, and it's going to be pen and paper, right? We're going to start pen and paper. We're just going to write some stuff down, and we're going to start tracking. Very simple, very basic. Anybody can do this, right? Write down your income, start tracking your expenses, do a little bit of math. This is basic stuff. I will argue that.
And that's how I started.
Yeah,
I don't know how you started, but that exactly.
Pen and paper.
It wasn't even a legal pad. It was literally scrap paper because we have a pile of scrap paper that we use. And I would pull it out each pay period, and I would write down the income for that pay period and start off with our needs. And then what was left, I would divvy up into different categories, savings being a big category, into the different things that we were saving for. And then the wants. How much do we have this month that we can have fun with?
Is there even any left over, right? And so it's going to depend on where you are in your life and when you're getting started as to what that looked. For me, this was early on. I was making no money. I had way too many expenses. I bought a home too soon. I wrecked my car, so I had to buy a new car. Didn't have to, but I did, right? And so I had all these expenses. I was trying to manage. I was living in Virginia at the time, super expensive. And honestly, I don't know how I made it, but I did. And this paper budget was terrible. It was wrong all the time. It always is behind because I'm doing this on paper, right? So it's happening after all of the spending activity. It's never happening before. I'm not looking out because I don't know yet. It's early in my life, and nobody has taught me how to do this. And so I'm frustrated and I'm getting it wrong. And I was behind every single month. I think I refied that first house 4 or 5 times, taking money out every single time. And I thought that's just what you did. There was no podcast. There was no Off Limits podcast to tell me different. I didn't have access to a finance coach. I didn't have any of these tools at my disposal, at least that I knew of. And nobody was telling me to live any differently. They were congratulating me for being able to manage all of this debt, and it never felt good. I was making all these payments, but it never felt good. I mean, when my lawnmower would run out of gas, that was like one of the worst moments because I didn't know how I was going to afford to go buy gas for the lawnmower. I was siphoning out of the gas tank of my car just to mow the grass. And
how can you live to your best self when you're living in that type of...
But you can learn. Right. And I think that's what I did. I think I learned a lot from that experience. So the pen and the paper really taught me a lot. And I think maybe what it taught me was what not to do. But it definitely is how you can get started. And I don't know, Christine, maybe, listening to you, maybe it was a little later in life. You kind of had, some spending activities, some income already going, had been together for a while.
Yeah.
And household was already kind of established. So pen and paper was a little bit easier because those patterns were already in place. I was just getting started. I had moved. I had a new job. I didn't really know what my income looked like. I didn't know what my expenses were going to look like. Like I said, I wrecked my car. I bought a new car. So like all of these things, all these decisions were made with no data. I just made them. And then I started trying to figure out how to make it work. And I was so bad, I didn't even know I had to keep like the record. I would just sit down and sketch out a budget and throw it away. Right. And then I'd sketch out another budget. Then I'd throw that away. Like there was no history. There was no data. It was bad. It was really, really bad.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you.
I did that in the beginning too. I was throwing them away. I was like, all right, check, got this budget done and threw it away. And then after,
what did I spend
several months of that, I'm like, why am I throwing these away? And then that's when I personally, and I say I, because even though I'm married and my husband and I plan our money together, I am the one who actually does the physical budget. And we talk about it, and we talk about, any kind of big expense we're going to make wholeheartedly. But I'm the one writing it every month. So then I moved to an Excel spreadsheet.
There you go. Step
and that's
two.
another option.
Yep.
That's another, where are you doing this? It could be a Google Sheet. It could be a spreadsheet, any kind of software that you're familiar with that you can enter in your information and then track it every month. You save it every month. It's there.
Spreadsheets are great because, like you said, they're always there. You can add tabs to them. You can connect them. You can do different, fun things if you know how. Or they can just be static, and but you can always go back. You save it. You can pull it back up. You can pull numbers in from last month into this month. You can make better decisions because you've got all that information. You're not losing anything. And you can update it easier, right? Erasing on a piece of paper, starting from scratch, is really not very convenient. And so if you've got a phone or a tablet or a cheap laptop, you have access to a version of a spreadsheet. And that's kind of the natural sort of next step, I think, in today's world is everybody's going to gravitate toward a spreadsheet at some point. We just all are. Even if we know that there's a service out there that can do it for us, a lot of us are going to try to build our own spreadsheet because we either don't want to pay for it or we don't really understand where the value is as that product relates to our needs. So we end up building our own version first. And I think what you said, though, even though you and your husband are making decisions together, really there is one person, and it's you, that is responsible for and kind of owns this budgeting process. And I think we don't want to slide over that too fast, right?
No, that's a big part of the house.
Somebody is going to be more willing to, I'll say it that way, manage this.
You mean excited for?
Yeah, excited. I mean, some of us do, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Excited to do it.
Absolutely. And I'm that way, right? I enjoy doing it. And so I did spreadsheets for years. When I got married, my wife was not excited at all about the finances. She'll tell you she was terrified when we first got married of just, being in debt, not having enough money. What if we can't pay our bills? Having never done it before, it was very, fear inducing, and nobody had taught her either. So we kind of navigated and learned that together. I naturally gravitated towards spreadsheets. She was very comfortable using spreadsheets, but very uncomfortable with the money conversation. And so, that spreadsheet was not something that she was interested in ever really seeing. And so we had to get through that. We had to get to a point where there was both trust and understanding and a plan that went forward instead of looking backward. And that really became kind of the thing that took us from being afraid of budgeting and not knowing what we're doing and not really being willing to do it to getting more to, like you, being excited and wanting to and being committed to the process. But I own the budgeting in our household. I manage the finances in our household, short-term and long-term. We all play by the same rules, but the playbook is heavily being influenced and developed by the work that I am doing. But that communication is ongoing. And so I think there's two main takeaways. One, you got to do it together, right? Everybody in the household, we already said this, needs to be involved in this conversation. But two, there's really going to be one person, and I won't say that it won't be one of the kids that takes this over, right? I mean, it could be a teenager in your household that just is a computer whiz and builds you a spreadsheet that they are capable of maintaining, but you really enjoy using, right? So get everybody involved. You don't know who that leader is going to be until you've invited everybody into the conversation.
And how empowering would it be for you to turn that over to one of your kids, right? What is that going to do for them in their future?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what this is about, right? I mean, our generation is only here for a fixed amount of time. And so we're going to do the best we can while we're here. But what kind of condition are we leaving the next generation in? What kind of tools, what kind of preparation have we done for them? And not just them, but, that ripple effect that goes on from their generation to the next, to the next, to the next. How many generations down the road could some of these efforts potentially impact if the communication continues, if the education continues, and we keep moving this needle in the right direction? I don't know. You didn't ask me, but I'm offering my opinion here. That's what excites me about doing things like this, just getting this information out there. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Off Limits.
Beyond the podcast, we are money coaches who want to help you.
So if you are looking for help managing your money, use the links in the description below to contact either of us and learn how coaching can help you thrive.
Lastly, please help us to spread the word by subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing our podcast with your friends and family.